Napoleon's early career. Return to Corsica. Bonaparte, aged 23, as lieutenant colonel of a battalion of Corsican Republican volunteers. Upon graduating in September 1785, Bonaparte was commissioned a second lieutenant in La Fère Artillery Regiment. He served in Valence and Auxonne until after the outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789, but spent long periods of leave in Corsica which fed his Corsican nationalism. In September 1789, he returned to Corsica and promoted the French revolutionary cause. Paoli returned to the island in July 1790, but he had no sympathy for Bonaparte, as he deemed his father a traitor for having deserted the cause of Corsican independence. Bonaparte plunged into a complex three-way struggle among royalists, revolutionaries, and Corsican nationalists. He became a supporter of the Jacobins and joined the pro-French Corsican Republicans who opposed Paoli's policy and his aspirations to secede. He was given command over a battalion of Corsican volunteers and promoted to captain in the regular army in 1792, despite exceeding his leave of absence and a dispute between his volunteers and the French garrison in Ajaccio. In February 1793, Bonaparte took part in the failed French expedition to Sardinia. Following allegations that Paoli had sabotaged the expedition and that his regime was corrupt and incompetent, the French National Convention outlawed him. In early June, Bonaparte and 400 French troops failed to capture Ajaccio from Corsican volunteers, and the island was now controlled by Paoli's supporters. When Bonaparte learned that the Corsican Assembly had condemned him and his family, the Bonapartes fled to Toulon on the French mainland. Siege of Toulon. Bonaparte returned to his regiment in Nice and was made captain of a coastal battery. In July 1793, he published a pamphlet, Le Souper de Beaucaire, Supper at Beaucaire, demonstrating his support for the National Convention, which was now heavily influenced by the Jacobins. In September, with the help of his fellow Corsican Antoine Christophe Saliceti, Bonaparte was appointed artillery commander of the Republican forces sent to recapture the port of Toulon, which was occupied by British and Allied forces. He quickly increased the available artillery and proposed a plan to capture a hill fort where Republican guns could dominate the city's harbor and force the British to evacuate. The successful assault on the position on 16 to 17 December led to the capture of the city. Toulon brought Bonaparte to the attention of powerful men including Augustin Robespierre, the younger brother of Maximilien Robespierre, a leading Jacobin. He was promoted to brigadier general and put in charge of defenses on the Mediterranean coast. In February 1794, he was made artillery commander of the Army of Italy and devised plans to attack the Kingdom of Sardinia. The French army carried out Bonaparte's plan in the Second Battle of Sorgo in April 1794, and then advanced to seize Ormia in the mountains. From Ormia, it headed west to outflank the Austro-Sardinian positions around Sorge. After this campaign, Augustin Robespierre sent Bonaparte on a mission to the Republic of Genoa to determine the country's intentions towards France. 13 Vendémiaire. After the fall of Maximilien Robespierre in July 1794, Bonaparte's association with leading Jacobins made him politically suspect to the new regime. He was arrested on August 9 but released 2 weeks later. He was asked to draw up plans to attack Italian positions as part of France's war with Austria and, in March 1795, he took part in an expedition to take back Corsica from the British, but the French were repulsed by the Royal Navy. From 1794, Bonaparte was in a romantic relationship with Désirée Clary, whose sister Julie Clary had married Bonaparte's brother Joseph. In April 1795, Bonaparte was assigned to the Army of the West, which was engaged in the war in the Vendée, a civil war and royalist counter-revolution in the Vendée region. As an infantry command, it was a demotion from artillery general, and he pleaded poor health to avoid the posting. During this period, he wrote the romantic novella Clisson et Eugénie, about a soldier and his lover, in a clear parallel to Bonaparte's own relationship with Clary. In August, he obtained a position with the Bureau of Topography where he worked on military planning. On September 15, Bonaparte was removed from the list of generals in regular service for refusing to serve in the Vendée campaign. He sought a transfer to Constantinople to offer his services to Sultan Selim III. The request was eventually granted, but he never took up the post. On October 3, Royalists in Paris declared a rebellion against the National Convention. Paul Barras, a leader of the Thermidorian reaction, knew of Bonaparte's military exploits at Toulon and made him second in command of the forces defending the convention in the Tuileries Palace. Bonaparte had seen the massacre of the King's Swiss Guard during the insurrection of August 10, 1792, there 3 years earlier, and realized that artillery would be the key to its defense. He ordered a young cavalry officer, Joachim Murat, to seize cannons, and Bonaparte deployed them in key positions. On October 5, 1795, 13 Vendémiaire and 4 in the French Republican calendar, he fired on the rebels with canister rounds, later called a whiff of grape shot. About 300 to 1,400 rebels died in the uprising. Bonaparte's role in defeating the rebellion earned him and his family the patronage of the new government, the French Directory. On October 26, he was promoted to commander of the Army of the Interior, and in January 1796 he was appointed head of the Army of Italy. Within weeks of the Vendémiaire uprising, Bonaparte was romantically involved with Josephine de Beauharnais, the former mistress of Barras. The couple married on March 9, 1796, in a civil ceremony. Bonaparte now habitually styled himself Napoleon Bonaparte, rather than using the Italian form Napoleon di Bonaparte.